Welcome to the My House Podcast, a show about the past, present, and future goings-on at the My House Youth Drop-In Center in Wasilla, Alaska, with your host, Michelle Overstreet.
Hello, welcome to episode 9 of the My House Podcast, and I'm your host, Michelle Overstreet. Today I'm joined by Eddie Ezell from the Matsu Food Bank. Eddie, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. Before we get to our discussion, let's just cut to Isaac real quick for a housekeeping update.
So the main thing that we're still promoting right now, everyone, is the golf tournament, which is July 22nd. There are still, I talked to Stacy yesterday, there are 4 holes still open for the golf tournament.
Ooh.
And there's still a couple spots left for teams as well. Although based off the conversation I had yesterday, those are filling up pretty fast. So if you're at all interested in having a team, you're going to want to get on that as soon as possible. We have flyers all around town, but I believe the website is also just 18holesofhope.com, I believe, and you can also access it through the My House website. So if you're interested in the golf tournament, get on that quick because those spots are filling up.
Oh, man, it was such a beautiful, fun day last year. Don't miss it if you love golf.
As far as other events we're doing with the organization right now, Michelle, that's kind of the big one. Lots of, meetings and community outreach things that were going on. I think actually today we have a luncheon that we're attending over at Everett's, so just look for us around town on the podcast side of things. The last episode of My House Podcast, we had Senator Lisa Murkowski on. That was really fun. We have a couple of our staff members on episodes of My Voice and Redemption. So yeah, tons of cool interviews coming out with people if you haven't gotten to those yet. And next My House Podcast episode will actually be the 10th one that we've done, which
That's
is
right.
Cool. Kind of big. I
Yeah.
feel like it's exciting. I remember when we started, that was like, man, that won't be till June, and now it's June. So
It's gone fast and it's been really fun. It's nice to have community people join us for just a conversation and to be able to share that, out on our broadcast network is a treat. We serve a geographic area the size of the state of West Virginia, as do you, Eddie.
Yep.
Yeah, Scotland, the country of Scotland.
Yep.
And so Jay has been up and down the Parks Highway in a partnership with Three Bears. We have posters going up in all of their locations, their outposts, letting kids know that we have services if they're struggling and how we can help and what we can do. So
Cool.
Lots of good things happening. Eddie, how long have you been with the Matsu Food Bank?
Just about the same amount of time you've been here.
Okay.
About 12 years going on.
Very
12
good.
years, so
Very
yeah,
good.
a while. You'd think I'd know better.
Oh, no. And I know that one of the things that I've struggled with is that people often confuse your organization with the Alaska Food Bank.
Yes, they do. We call them the Food Bank of Anchorage, just to clarify that. But
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably fairly accurate.
And we need to, and that's one of the things that I like to get out in the community and talk about is support your local community. If you want to support Anchorage, that's fine, but be aware that there's people out here that could use your help too. And it's not just our food bank. There's many, many pantries. There's a food bank in Palmer. All of these people, if you're anywhere close to those people, please support local.
Yeah.
Just like you guys are helping all across the borough and beyond, I'm sure, like we do. But I get a little upset when I hear, I donated X amount of dollars to the food bank. Well, I didn't see that. Well, I sent it to Anchorage, and it's like,
Yeah.
I have to remind them all the time. It's like gas stations. I go to Tesoro and buy gas. They don't share that money with Chevron. It's
Right.
2 different companies.
Right. We really have a blessing here in the Matsu Valley of having we're the green belt for Alaska.
Yes,
so we
very
have,
much so.
I think, 85% of the farming with the exclusion of Delta barley.
Delta, and a couple of little spots here and there. Homer and stuff has some farmers, but yeah, we're pretty much it for the state.
Yeah, and so it's important to support local. And did I hear this right? I'm going to clarify this, that when farmers out here donate to the Alaska Food Bank, it goes to Anchorage and then they redistribute it to you and the rest of the Matsu.
Well, they redistribute, not to us, but I am on their list as an agency. but I try and avoid going there to get food because there's so many other smaller agencies that really could use that instead of me, sucking up whatever they have for that day and bringing it out here to redistribute. But with that said, they also go to all the stores out here and collect and take it into Anchorage and then supposedly bring it back for distribution on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which I also don't go to those.
Wow.
Because there's just too many small little pantries, little mom and pop pantries that really, really need that help. If they didn't get that stuff from the food bank, then they probably wouldn't be able to open their doors.
Right. I remember during the Willow sockeye fire, there was a little pantry out there that was just overwhelmed. And
she's still there, and she's still overwhelmed, and she's added onto the building, and she's doing a great job out there. But, they need your support too, just the local people supporting them, which is good. I try and supply some of them as much as I can. Here lately, I've had to kind of cut it off because our donations are down. We survived the COVID because of the amount of food that I had stored. We've pretty much gone through that. So I'm starting to ask people to donate again because we really need it.
Very good. So. And you just got money for some additional warehouse space, so you'll have more storage?
Yes. I'm in the process of buying the building that we're in now, the Wolverine building, and I've got monies coming toward that hopefully soon, and that would make us self-sustaining. I'm sure you understand that.
Wow.
That whole thing. It does have office space that we can lease, and that would help cover our maintenance and wear and tear type costs. But we wouldn't have to go to the government every year and ask for money or go to the public every year and ask for big chunks of money.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So that's our goal, is to be self-sustaining. I built a great big freezer and cooler in there already. That's really nice. But
that's excellent.
And moving forward.
And a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago now, we had a big earthquake and the highway didn't go through to Anchorage.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, everybody was looking at Eddie for some food security, right?
Yeah, I was getting calls from lots of different people from different places, but there is a system in place through the government, through the city, and then by default the borough, and then on and on. But I even had people from other agencies. I don't want to name any names, but calling from down south, saying, you got to give us all your food, and it's like, no, I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I try and keep it local. If local people need it, I will certainly share it. But during the fire, we took a lot of food up for the firefighters and stuff for that, and the earthquake too. We had a lot of people that just lost their house, lost everything. They didn't have any place to go, so we helped out with that like you do. So.
Very good. Well, it's exciting to know that you're there and to know some of the things that you're doing. The natural disaster management part of what you do is so imperative. We see that here every day at 3:00. We serve a hot supper for any kids that want to come, and lots of times that's their first introduction to my house, is just coming in for supper. And I have a thing that I say around here that is, hungry kids make bad choices.
Yes, they do.
And so the part that you've helped us with right from the very get-go, when we first opened our doors, we were basically an empty warehouse, and you sent over boxes of snack foods and juice boxes and things that we could have here for kids to eat.
Yep.
And it made such a difference for them. They knew that they could come somewhere and get food. And then when we got the cafe set up, for months, you sent over food for Supper Club that was that we could cook and could provide a hot meal. And the difference that makes for a homeless kid to have one hot meal a day, I don't think can be understated.
No, it can't. And I tell people all the time, like when I go into elementary schools and talk, I try and get the kids to understand that you got to study math, but if you're hungry and you're sitting there looking at Susie's apple, you're not paying attention to the math class.
That's right.
And it puts you behind. So therefore, it's very important that kids get nutrition, get food of some type, just, so they're not thinking about being hungry all the time.
Yeah.
And that's a very hard concept sometimes for people to understand. But if we start with the kids, guess what? It'll grow when they're adults. They'll go, these people help me. Now I can help them.
Right.
So it's kind of a pay it back type thing.
Yeah.
And same thing with, we didn't have a whole lot of food, but I shared it with you because I knew sooner or later it'll come back, you know. And some of the kids that you guys have helped have come to see us and donate, and it's a wonderful cycle to see happen.
Yeah.
You know? But
that's the goal, right? To turn those who are using the system into those who are supporting the system and trying to prevent those coming behind them from falling into despair. Really.
I tell people all the time, put me out of a job. Because if I'm out of a job, that means that everybody's fed, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. But I don't think that's going to happen. But it's a long-term goal.
I love that attitude and I think we have to have that attitude as nonprofit directors. Otherwise, we're creating a cycle of dependence.
Right.
That's really more interested in perpetuating jobs than it is community goodwill. Right.
And you see it as much as I do. That sometimes they're chasing the money; they're not actually doing the things that they should be doing. They get off the track because they're chasing money, and the original mission was to do something, and then it's wandered off because they're following that money.
Right.
But I've stayed true to, and I still tell people all the time, I do food. I think I do it well. And I'm not doing clothing. I'm not doing housing. There's other people like you that take care of those sort of things.
Right.
I can refer them to you.
Yes.
You know, so
that lets us be part of a continuum in our community. I know Ginger Bear comes over and works with you from Family Promise and some of the other organizations that are part of our entire community continuum. And I just think it's such a nice statement that we all work well together.
And it should be that way.
It should be that way.
When you and I first started this, it was silos. Everybody had their own little silo, and this is mine, don't touch it. You know.
Right.
But I think we've kind of turned that a little bit for working with different agencies and the community. It's very important. You mentioned your golf tournament, and I was going to tell them that if they don't get into your golf tournament, mine's the next day. You can come see ours.
That's right. So, I'm happy to. So on the July 23rd, and yours is at the Palmer Golf.
No, it's at
Settlers Bay.
Yeah, it's at Settlers.
Oh, very nice.
And I've got a team working on it. They're pretty excited. I've kind of backed off and let them take care of it, and I think it'll be a really fun day.
I love it. You've got a neat board for doing a good event
board
like that. Yeah, that'll be fun no matter what comes out of it.
Well, when you have people at Settlers Bay that are pretty entertaining anyway, I don't want to mention their names, Amos, but
oh my gosh, is he so much fun?
He is.
And
Vicky's
Vicky's such a gem.
She is great.
That we really should shout out Settlers Bay, both the golf course, the clubhouse there, the Albatross, and the lodge, because they, for being, 7 miles out Kinnick Road or however far they are, they're a little bit out of town, but they are so community oriented and do such a nice job being engaged with nonprofits and serving. And Josh, the chef at Settlers Bay, has been in here and has done some little cooking instruction for our kids that are in training in the cafe. And we're in the process of planning a remodel in there, and he's been helping us with the kitchen design. And it's just such a blessing to have, community organizations that are so engaged and giving and aware and that welcome us out, to that golf course with a whole crew of young people with lived experience. So it helps us bust up that stigma, right?
Yeah,
because people think, they're those kids. And I know you were here for our ribbon cutting when the governor talked about, this is not us and them. This is not for your customers or your clients at the food bank. This is not us and them. We're all as a community in this together. Right. And I love that we have so many organizations and groups and people like Settlers Bay that engage and support. Yeah. And they don't just talk it, they walk it.
They do. Harley Davidson does that for us. They do a lot of drives and stuff, and they're involved. I mean,
they're involved.
Andy calls me fairly frequently. What can I do? What can we do this month? That kind of thing. And that's good because it drives to their business too. And that's what I tell them, word of mouth works wonders. And if people are knowing that Camper Valley or Harley Davidson or anybody is supporting these people, then they're more likely to go shop there.
That's for sure.
We've got everything that Anchorage has got short of Costco. So
that's true. That's true. I'm very, very proud of of the valley and the work that we do here in so many ways. I think we've tackled some difficult social situations. You've talked about everybody working together well and not being siloed. You know, I love that I can call you and you can call me, and I promise I don't not pick up the phone when you call.
Yeah, it just goes to voicemail.
But we have the ability to call one another and really solve problems on the fly instead of, you know, having to go to committee and taking forever. And
or having a Zoom meeting for a couple hours and I'm
right,
sorry, but
right, or study the problem,
yeah,
right? We
yeah.
just
we know the problem. Let's get a solution to it.
Yeah. And so I feel like I feel so much pride for what you do and the way that, you know, you interact with so many of the groups across the valley and support so many organizations like ours, but also, you know, you're always, when stuff like the earthquake or the sockeye fire happens, you're always right there and helping us manage all of that stuff. I don't know if you remember this, but during the willow sockeye fire, at one point, people in Anchorage were donating, and they brought pallets of water and dog food and down to the Alaska train depot, and they put it on a train car
and brought it out.
And I didn't have any way to unload pallets of water and dog food to get it anywhere. And so I was calling you frantically saying, Eddie, what do I do? I don't have a forklift. I don't have a truck. I just have a warehouse full of stuff for people that are victims of the fire. And you just totally took care of it. It was like, okay, I'll get the dog food to the mushers. I'll bring the water to the firefighters.
I have a funny story about that too. Our former mayor, I don't want to mention his name, Bert, during that fire, he says, you know, we need water up here for the firefighters. I said, okay. So I says, I'll bring you some water, bring you some over to the Menard Center. He goes, yeah, a pallet or so will be fine. I took him 6 pallets. And he cussed me, still cusses me for years because I finally got rid of all that water. I'm never asking you for water again. But he didn't have to worry about running out of water.
Right,
so.
Right. Well, and during the earthquake, they had people shelter in place there. And I mean, it's not a bad thing to have a lot of on hand. And
well, you got to have a backup, you know. It's
right.
Food is a necessity just like shelter.
Yeah.
You know, you got to have food and shelter and clothing.
Yeah.
Kind of your 3 basics. And you provide 2 and I provide 1. So it works out pretty good for me.
Check.
I guess that's my question that I've had this entire time was we talked about there was the sockeye fire, which was, I mean, the bird line is right on my family's property, so that one was close. And then there was a couple years after, even further north, and there was the earthquake. Out of all those, in the 12 years you said that you've been running the food bank, what's been the one single event that where you think that you've distributed the most or done the most? Was it an earthquake? Was it a fire? Or was it just a random summer?
No, I think it was the sockeye fire was the biggest because that got kind of close to home and it affected a lot more people than, say, a fire up north where it's not as populated.
Right.
But we hit a lot of population with that fire and a lot of damage. So that's probably bigger. Then
that's another reason to donate right now, because I don't know if anyone realizes this, but it's been like 80 degrees for the last 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh. I got an email from the Forest Service yesterday because we had applied for a burn permit before.
Absolutely
not happening right now.
They said don't even mow your lawn because the sparks from lawnmowers are igniting
That's my excuse
fires.
for not mowing my grass. So
can't
so
mow.
far, I can't mow, honey. I'm sorry. It's just got to grow wild.
Well, that willow sockeye fire, I think, was really impactful for everybody who was involved because they just couldn't get it stopped. I mean, it went on and on and on, and Houston High School was providing the food there, and we had this huge warehouse, this electrical warehouse that was empty when it started and that filled up with all these different things. And people don't realize the number of dog teams out there.
Right.
And
there's a lot of them.
Dog food made me think about that. I mean, we have, my parents have sled dogs, and I think at the time we had 10. I wasn't even up here. I was down in Soldotna at the time. I kind of came up at the tail end. And, I mean, getting to just 10 dogs out of town in the time that they had to. I mean, they didn't have a lot of time between when they got told to get out of there and when the fire actually hit. And we were lucky enough to only have 10 dogs, and then we also had a fire team sitting literally on top of our roof,
Right.
because the wellhead was right there, so they were able to defend our property. But I mean, we have friends that had 60, 70, 100 dogs,
Right.
and some of them lost everything. I mean, so what the food bank and the community did during that fire was huge. I know a lot of mushers from up there that wouldn't, they wouldn't still be in it if it wasn't for the community donation and help they received.
Yeah, it was. At one time, we heard that there were over 3,000 dogs, and Clear Creek Cat Rescue. Shout out to them. They showed up one day with all this cat food and all these cat things, and they were taking cats in, and the number of cats was like 1,500 cats.
Really?
And I was like, oh my gosh.
Never even thought about
not
cats.
only do we have people evacuating and their homes being burned and thousands and thousands of acres of woodland, forest, and fishing areas and hunting areas, but we've got 3,000 sled dogs. I mean, it was crazy. And that was one of the things that was really striking. People delivered pallets of dog
stuff.
food.
Yep.
and truckloads of cat food and food for people and water and Gatorade and it was amazing, the community outpouring. So it would be nice if we could fill your warehouse up, Eddie.
It would be nice if I could get back up to some of the levels. Like I said, it's carried us through COVID. I hadn't had to buy or really put on a food drive for a couple of years because we had enough in the warehouses to supply us. But because of all that, drained all our resources. Plus, I moved. I didn't want to move any more than I had to. So, we let it kind of dwindle down. But now that we've got this nice big warehouse, it'd be real nice to put some stock back in there.
Well, maybe this fall we can work on doing a food drive and a fill the warehouse for winter food drive
Good
for
idea.
Eddie and the Matsu Food Bank. And as we kind of wrap up here, thank you, Eddie, for being with us. Thank you for being part of our community. Thank you for hanging in there. We didn't talk about funding.
Yeah, it's a tough one to talk about.
We could back up for a couple minutes and talk about funding for a minute, because I think we both have had experiences with funding that was really challenging. We've had to work through some really difficult economic times as individual nonprofits, but also as a community.
Right. It still continues to be very difficult. Like I said, I'm in the process of buying this warehouse, and I'm trying to get the money granted so I don't have to go to the borough or the state or somebody every year and ask for money to support us.
Right.
We would be self-supporting, just like you guys, your plan is for here. That's my goal. If it's set up where I can receive food donations and store it and distribute it, and it doesn't cost as much as it's costing now.
Nice.
That's a good goal to be aiming for.
Well, if you're on a foundation board that is granting money to the Matsu Food Banker, Eddie Ezell, please support their efforts.
Please do. Give us a call.
We thank you, Eddie. We're so grateful that you're part of our community, and thanks for hanging in during the tough times. And if you're out there and you're thinking about a great place to donate to, the Matsu Food Bank is a great place to donate.
And even if you just want to come by and see what we do, you're more than welcome to do that too.
Tell them where you are.
My new location is at 5099 East Blue Lupin Drive. It's right off the highway, just past Higher Road, this side of Higher Road. A great big red building, 2 stories. You can't miss it.
Nice.
I've got an office there, and the warehouse is there. And if I'm there, I'd be happy to show you around.
Go see Eddie.
We're setting up now so that we can start taking donations there also. So
Very good. Very good.
we're moving. slowly.
Excellent. Proud to see you growing, Eddie. Thank you for joining us
No,
today.
thanks for
on
having
the
me.
My House podcast.
I appreciate it.
That's all the time we have for today, and I want to thank Eddie for being here. The My House podcast is recorded at the My House studio in Wasilla, Alaska. Our producer and editor is Isaac Smolden, and I'm Michelle Overstreet. Until next time.